Thanks for making the effort. It's no effort really, is it? None at all. I think that's sometimes missed about the whole notion of non-duality, that the misconception is that you could achieve. There is something called non-duality, that there is non-duality, as opposed to duality, where most human beings are living. They're living in this sense of duality. Well, non-duality is just suggesting that there isn't anything else. So non-duality is suggesting there isn't non-duality, in opposition to what normal, everyday, dualistic human beings perceive life to be like. There isn't actually anything else to find. So you do find that this message is never popular, because it's not offering anything other than what seems to be. And that's not on offer. That is already the case. So there isn't anything to get. You can't get non-duality, is what I'm saying. Now, there are plenty of teachers who will teach you differently and say that there is something to get. And you could be trying to do that to your last breath, until the body dies. And there's many human beings do try until the body dies. So really, the message or the communication or what wants to be said is there's nothing to get, not even nothing. Because I speak a lot about nothing, because it's all nothing. And critics of the way I speak about this, I get this criticism quite regularly that I'm making something out of nothing, which of course it does sound that way, but that's not the intention. The intention is definitely not to make something out of nothing. It's to emphasize that everything is nothing. I don't know how it's been for you as seekers, but how it was for me is I was always waiting. So the whole sense of being a seeker was not yet, not yet, not yet. It can't be, because the sense of me is still here. I have people say to me every day, well, I mean, I do have a good understanding, but I know I'm not there yet. I went, no, of course you're not there yet. No one's there. There is no there. There is no there. But that's of no use to you whatsoever, there being no there, because then, there's only here. No, there's no here without there. You won't find here or there. The whole here or there is the illusion. There is neither here nor there. It's not that I'm here and you're there. There is, for want of a better word, I use this all the time because I can't find anything better, but this is neither here nor there and is both here and there. It's all inclusive. So it's not that there isn't still the sense of you're over there and I'm over here, but equally I'm not here and you're not there. Now that will never make sense. You'll never get this. And so no matter how many talks you go to, how many books you read, there will not be a conceptual understanding landing place. That's not what's being spoken of. All knowledge is futile. All knowledge is empty. All understanding is worthless. When it dawned on me as a seeker that I'd studied non-duality, I was never good at studying. I wasn't a good student, but I'd really studied and felt I had a really thorough intellectual understanding of non-duality, because I read everything I could read. And I wasn't exclusive, I was quite inclusive about it. So I'd read all the spiritual stuff, even though I poo-pooed most of it, but there had to be something in it, so I read it and tried to get as much understanding as possible.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
And when it happened that it was like a smack in the face, or like a kick in the head. It was really, you could say this was the realization. It was the realization of futility. And that's what I'm speaking about. There is no point to life. There is no meaning to life. There is no reason for life. You do not have a point. I do not have a point. There is no point. You can make any points you want, but they're arbitrary. It doesn't matter. Absolutely nothing matters. And ultimately, not even nothing matters. Because I know people who make nothing into, oh, well, that's what we're speaking about, as though that's making nothing God, really. But it hit like a sledgehammer that it was all worthless. All my understanding, all my knowledge. There was of no consequence. And then I fell into despair. Really deep despair, because this was my final hope, I guess, of I could get there. So this is the most devastating thing you could ever hear, that it's not that you can't get there, it's that there is no you to get there. It's more futile than self can ever imagine. Because there isn't a path. You feel you've been on a path and you're still on a path, but it's just not true. This is the entirety. This is everything. There is nothing more or less. So if anyone asks you, if you speak to them about this, and they say, well, what do you mean by this? It's very direct and straightforward. It's everything. It's all there is. But it's also all there isn't. It's not confined to what there is. Because what is equally isn't. You can't know what is, there is just what is. So it can sound like it's the end of a road, so that's the destination, but it's not, because the road that led up to the destination doesn't exist, so that this isn't an arrival. There's no one who arrives here. I was talking to Brandon yesterday about coming home. That's a very popular story about homecoming. The sense, a lot of spiritual seekers have the sense of they were cast out of Eden, especially if you had a Christian upbringing. But this general sense of, okay, I've got this vague memory, I don't know what home is, but at some point I left and I'm longing to return, this longing to return. So it's equally wonderful and dreadful news. There was never anyone. So you never left home, but neither can you return. There is no leaving or returning. You can't even abide. You can't even remain, because this doesn't remain. Nothing remains. All the appearance is coming and going. And it leaves as it arrives. So this is the beginning and the end, with no space in between. where you've said you lived is in this imaginary space in between the beginning and the end of however you envisage time, but birth and death. And life is in between birth and death. No, life isn't in between anything. There is just life. There isn't an in-between. And so there isn't an in-between me and you. There isn't a space between. There's only space. This is, everything is. Absolutely empty. The fullness is completely empty. And emptiness isn't something. All the things are no thing. Existing and non-existing are not two. So it's not that things don't exist, things do exist. And equally they don't. And so that isn't an answer. This isn't an answer to your questions. It's just the end of questions. There is no answer. And that is the peace that passes all understanding. And it isn't a peace for me, because I am the questioner. I am the need to know. This whole sense of needing to know in order to be safe comes from this isolated neediness of me feeling so vulnerable. I am this tiny little self in this vast universe of dreadful danger. I'm under threat. Well, there is no threat. So this isn't what self wants, because self is just looking for security. And there's no security. There's actually no knowing what's going on. The illusion is that we know what's going on, ever. And there is a wonderful peace in not doubting that no one knows what's going on. The only thing you know about what's going on is what you say you know about what's going on. I mean, what is that actually worth? It's so petty. When you see this for what it really is, which is every human being having this conviction that they do know their relationship to life, which is what's going on, which seems to be going on. When that's undoubtedly every human being's unique perspective of what life is and what's happening, then it becomes, and there's great love in that. The wonderful insignificance of each human being. You know, it's like seeing an ant and thinking the ant knows what's going on, and you go, yeah, like that's worth anything. And that's what everyone's perspective is worth. It's so, the pettiness of self, if it's really seen, and of course the pettiness of self is what you called yourself. That's what, you see that there's great compassion, there's amazing compassion for everyone. Pathetically trying to do their best when no one but them gives a shit about their best anyway. Generally. Apart from your mother. She's dead, so you can forget about her and her, oh, I hope my boy does good. Make something of himself. So this is the thing. Here's the great relief. Here's there's not much worth in speaking about this, but I would wish for every human being to be liberated from making something of themselves. Wouldn't that be wonderful? There you go. So yeah, so it's funny because I'd say this is the end of dreams and hopes, and then I've just come out with that beautiful nirvana fantasy of a world without selves being completely egotistical and pursuing their goals. But here's the thing, goals don't suddenly become wrong. There's no problem. Goals are a problem when you want to achieve goals. When goals are just the fantasy of each human being has their own idea of what the purpose of life is, then they're all liberated, and there's great compassion for people having huge desire and motivation to do these amazing feats to no end whatsoever. You know, that it's more beautiful, not less. I said the other day, it's my dad, who was a very, very simple soul, he came out with some absolute pearls. One of the cliches, of course. He only talked in cliches, really. But he said, well, we're all in the same boat. And it's really beautiful. Now here's the thing, we are all in the same boat, but there's no one in the boat, and there's no fucking boat. What sort of boat is that? It's not a boat that you'd ever want, because it's not going to save your life. So the whole point of boats, you know, we've got something to cling to. There is nothing to cling to. And that's the liberation. You've been afraid your whole life. Self is fear. The root of virtually all motivation for self is fear. And looking for security. Even if self isn't aware, wouldn't call it fear, would say, no, it's just the right thing to do. No, the right thing to do just means you're scared of doing that because it looks a little bit dangerous. That wouldn't be sensible. So although it might sound dreadful that we're all in this boat that we're not in and the boat doesn't exist, what is left without the boat and without the ones in the boat? Then there's the ocean. That's what's left. The ocean is a good analogy until you get to the shore. And we're talking about an ocean that doesn't have a shore. And we're talking about an ocean that doesn't have a bottom, doesn't have an ocean floor, has no depth. So this annihilates all notions of going deeper. If you speak about anything like this, you'll get people ask you, has there been a deepening? Has there been a deepening? Oh. What the fuck would that look like? I mean, something that is depthless, there can't be a deepening. Oh. So no. But of course, that's the whole journey, isn't it? You can always go deeper, or you can go the other way. You can always go higher. You know, there's the whole idea of ascension, but it's all about traveling. It's all about path and journey. There is no journey to here. No one got here. No one leaves here. No one stays here. The equality of it is astounding, and it does lay everything flat. Like the ocean is like a mill pond. And then the wind gets up.